This next team is my team, the Portland Trailblazers. And as I'm just going to scroll up my eyes to look at what time we're starting the Portland Trailblazers, they're buyers. They shouldn't be. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that they need to like go nuclear and trade Dame, but they shouldn't be buyers. Like they're not good enough to be buyers. The report from Chris Haynes was hysterical where it says they've identified shooting size and depth as areas of need at the trade deadline. And it's unintentionally comedic in the sense that, oh, the Blazers have identified almost every single aspect of basketball as an area of need.
Yeah, anything else? Do they want guys?
Do they want
Let's see.
defense? Why was that not mentioned?
Well, yeah, that's number one, right?
So I'm uninspired by what this team might do, but they do have Jeremy Grant expiring at 21 million, Josh Hart, $13 million player option. He's expiring. Those are two players I keep my eye on. A lot of people don't think they'll move Grant. What if Grant doesn't want to play there? He seems like he's happy there, but is he going to sign the extension? Are you going to resign him in free agency? What's going to happen? They do have a $6.5 million traded player exception that will expire before the deadline on February 6th. I don't know what the move is for this team. Like their best salary matching assets, they kind of need. Like when you're looking at Jeremy Grant or Yusuf Nurkic, would they want to pull a mulligan on the GP2 deal? They can step ladder their way by putting other players on the board, but it seems like they need sort of a home run swing if they're going to make a trade. And I don't know if they're built to do that because we referenced this in the previous podcast. The 2023 first they owe to Chicago is lottery protected through 2028. 2028. So they can't even guarantee a first round pick. You can do first allowable without any guarantee that it conveys. And it will probably convey at some point, but not knowing diminishes the value for a team that's, acquiring these players. So like my questions for them are 80-fold. Will they move Josh Hart? Are they open to moving Jeremy Grant? Do they have a big swing in them? And what does that big swing take? I think most people would assume it's Shaedon Sharpe. Okay, fine. Human bounce house has the could be anyone mystique to him still. He doesn't make enough money to just be like, hey, like Shaedon Sharpe and what? And now you don't have this first round equity. I don't know what they're going to do. And I don't know what to advocate for them to do. They are one of my biggest mysteries entering the trade deadline. And I got some pushback from Blazers fans. I made the bold prediction that one would-be buyer would join the short list of sellers. And I had the Raptors, Bulls, and Wizards on it. And I think I ranked the Blazers second. And I had some Blazers fans in my DMs like, no, that's not going to happen. I don't fucking care. It probably should. Like, that's why they're there. So I'm at a loss for what this team can do. I did come up with a trade idea to where after, you vamp on them for a little bit, I think that's the level of move they need if they're actually trying to move the needle. Otherwise, you can say that you're not a seller if you do this, but if you just move Josh Hart for something because you don't want to pay him in free agency, that's unspectacular. I don't who are you turning Josh Hart into? Because you would have to, if you want to level up from Josh Hart, you have to attach something to Josh Hart and their best, let's say, non-player asset. I mean, maybe some teams like Nas Little still or Keon Johnson, it'd be nice to see Jabari Walker get some minutes. But do you really want the Minnesota or Charlotte's 2024 second or New Orleans' 2027? Because that's your best sweetener, non-player sweetener at this point.
Yeah, I think the Blazers are a team that I was pretty high on after their offseason moves, and I still am kind of confused as to why they're not better. Obviously, the answer is defense. And a lot of that I think has had to do with Gary Payton II just not being healthy until pretty recently. But to me, this, and I'm going to step on your trade idea because I had this exact thought as I was looking at the Blazers, if it's not going to be a big draft pick package, which it can't be, this is still one of the better OG Anunoby destinations, just because they clearly need a big wing that can guard and that doesn't need the ball offensively it's probably better off not having the ball a lot offensively, just a total dependent scorer that could play with Grant, that could play with Peyton as your forward combos, that could guard centers if you want to try some difference, get Nurkic off the floor to see if that juices the defense. And you've got Shaedon Sharpe, you've got Anthony Simons. You could get pretty close, I think, to some of the now, if the Raptors just want, 3 firsts and a swap or something, Portland can't do that. But of the teams that can't trade picks or are really hamstrung in that regard, I think the Blazers are one of the best positioned to still be in the mix because of those two guys, Sharp and Simons, as the base of a package for like a meaningful upgrade. I should they do that? I don't know, because those are kind of your paths out of the post Lillard era, and Anunoby would not be the same kind of player. But if you're just 100% committed to we agreed to give Dame $50 million a year until he's 47 years old, and we're going to try to win immediately now while that's going on, then you're almost obligated. I don't think that's the right decision, but I could see it.
So do we want to get to this trade? I don't even know. I don't even know what I did here. But
Well,
like,
let's get it.
OG Anunoby's the guy that all the Blazers fans want, which means that
Yeah.
Blazers fans are smart and understand what this team needs. Although he might provide too much defense. It's not an area of need that they identified leading to this trade.
But he does provide depth, size, and some shooting. So that's
Yeah,
3 out of 4.
that's right. He checks too many boxes. Is the
Yeah.
issue. So the Blazers get OG Anunoby and Chris Boucher. The Raptors receive Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Jabari Walker, the 2024 second from Charlotte or Minnesota, and then a 2025 first round pick from Portland. It is the first allowable pending obligation to Chicago. It turns into 2 seconds for Toronto if Portland doesn't convey a pick to the Bulls by 2027, because at that point you can't move the pick. One thing I'll make clear, I 100% do this if I'm the Blazers, because Anthony Simons, I don't want to say he's redundant with Dame, but like we've seen
But he is.
I thought they were better defensively to begin the season, but we've seen the movie before with how this ends in CJ McCollum and Dame defensively. There's just, if you could get OG while keeping Simons, more power to you. You can't. It's just, you're not getting him. You're not getting OG for Nurkic. It's just not happening. So I would do it if I'm Portland. My question to you, is that even like semi-intriguing for Toronto?
It's semi-intriguing, but I'm still, based on what we've heard and based on what you would intuit are going to be the requirements draft pick wise, that's probably not enough. You're going to have to rope in, like, can we reroute Boucher to New Orleans and somehow like squeeze out a pseudo first for him there with some, Devontae Graham coming. Like, I think the Blazers are going to have to finagle one or two, maybe just one more good first or a couple of phony firsts to get Toronto's attention there. But like, Simons, he has his issues, but he would just, and if you're going to lose Van Fleet, especially, suddenly you got a guy in there on a pretty reasonable deal that could just be your point guard. So that box is checked in Toronto. And then Sharp is just the lottery ticket, maybe he is just becomes an all-star level, wing and you're good. Like, that's possible. So it's close. Toronto seems to, probably correctly, understand that Anunoby is just about as hot a commodity as there is among guys that have even been like whispered to be available. And
which you don't even want to hear my spicy take on OG Anunoby is I think that might be one of the more overrated players in the NBA right now, to be honest.
He might be now. You
want someone who can, dribble the ball and commit turnovers aside from it's just, I think his offensive game is overrated is my point.
That for sure. Yeah. I'm like in my post Anunoby burned phase, because I think either 2 or 3 years in a row preseason as who's going to make the all-star leap. It's like, oh, it's definitely going to be Anunoby. Him and De'Aaron Fox have burned me too many times. But yeah, Anunoby, the luster's a little bit off, but the contract's good. He's a great defender, and Portland just needs a guy that can just go guard everybody, and that's pretty much him.
If you're Toronto, does it make it more palatable if you can guarantee that 2025 pick is going to convey? You can't, because you're saying the Blazers are going to make the playoffs this season. So let's just say it conveys by 2026.
I think that's fine. I'm just trying to time it to where everything falls apart and Dame isn't like an all NBA level player anymore. So going back 26 towards 26 is better than like 24. I don't think I'd want 20, if not that that's on the table, but like, just, I'm trying to time it right. So I want it right in that window where, Lillard starts to really slip, which has not happened this year. I think you got a couple more years before we see that. And then, I don't know, you're always just trying to buy the downside. You're trying to time it right when you're getting these picks with multiple years of protection.